So today we're going to be making pizza. This is probably one of the easiest ways to make a good weeknight meal for a group of friends or your family.
Pizza time.
First off, we're going to make the dough. For this particular pizza dough, we're going to need 500 grams of wheat flour, 16 grams of salt, 4 grams of active dry yeast, all of which we're going to whisk together in a big bowl, making sure they are thoroughly combined. And then we're going to add 350 milliliters or grams of room temperature water to the mix. Here I'm just using my hands to mix together the dry ingredients in with the water until it makes a scraggly dough. This should only take a minute or two. When you can't see any large clumps of dry flour, cover it with either a towel or plastic wrap and place it in a cold place to proof for 2 or 3 days, and making sure to not leave it for longer than 5 days. This dough recipe makes around 4 servings. Now, a few days later, we're gonna make the sauce. Firstly, I'm adding a whole 280 gram can of cold peeled tomatoes, 3 whole cloves of garlic, about 2 teaspoons of dried oregano, and a teaspoon and a half of salt. Now we'll cover the blender and blend for a minute until the sauce reaches a smoothie-like consistency without any large bits of garlic sticking out. Then we're going to preheat a non-stick skillet on medium-high heat, add about a tablespoon of oil and a tablespoon of tomato paste, that we're going to break up in smaller chunks and allow it to fry for a bit. The tomato paste should be cooked until it darkens and smells slightly sweet. Then we're going to add the previously blended up sauce, stir to combine and bring to a simmer. Then we're going to leave it to simmer for about 15 minutes until it reaches a thick, goopy texture. During the 15 minutes, we're going to stir quite frequently, making sure that the sauce doesn't burn on the bottom or stick to the walls of the pan. Now that you're actually ready to make the pizza, you're going to preheat the oven to around 200 degrees Celsius and grab the bowl of dough wherever you left it and bring it over to a clean workplace. The dough should have at least double in size and look something like this. The top of my dough has turned a bit dry because I forgot about it and left it out for way too long, but don't worry if that happens, the dough should still be fine. So now you're going to flour said clean workplace and sip the dough out onto the flour. It might not be easy to get out of the bowl, but you'll manage. Because of the long ferment, the dough will smell almost alcohol-like and it will be very sticky, but don't worry, that's entirely normal. Then you're going to knead the dough for a little bit and incorporate some of the flour, and after a minute or two it should be quite smooth. Then you're going to rip or cut the dough in half, making 2 pieces, and then again making 4 small round pieces of dough. Then you're going to take one of the rounds and gently press it into the shape you want it to be. It doesn't matter if it's square or circle, it's still going to turn out great. You don't want to use a rolling pin because the dough is exceptionally sticky and it will ruin all your kitchen equipment. When the piece of dough is large enough, you're going to pick it up in your fingers and let gravity do its work and stretch it out. If any holes form, just overlap the dough and press firmly with your finger against the table. Then you're going to grab a baking sheet which you've previously covered with the parchment and place the pizza base onto the baking sheet. Now you're going to take the previously made pizza sauce and put about a ladle or a ladle and a half of sauce on the pizza base, making sure it spreads somewhat evenly. For a darker, more charred crust, spread the sauce onto the very edge of the pizza. Now just place whatever toppings you want. I'm going to be using black olives, mushrooms and fresh white onion. When your pizza is finished, open the oven by any means necessary and put the pizza in it for 10 to 20 minutes, monitoring closely, making sure it doesn't burn on the bottom or the top. Now that the pizza is firm to the touch and is slightly browned on both the bottom and top, you're going to take it out of the oven and let it cool for a few minutes. Make sure not to touch it during this time, because now it's quite fragile. Then after a few minutes, just remove the parchment and serve whatever way you want. When making the pizza, I was incredibly tired and forgot to film the outro, so here's just a thumbs up to a cut up pizza. In total it took around 4 days to make, but only an hour of that time was spent doing any work whatsoever. The pizza turned out great. The base had a nice fermented tangy flavor and the toppings balanced out perfectly. Of course, if you aren't vegan, you could use meat, cheese, or anything really. Maybe not fruit though, that could end quite badly. I hope you try the recipe yourself. The entire process is even easier than it looks, and fun if you do it with a friend or family member.
Pizza